Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Film Prods, where myself, Matt, and my co-host Tyler
Hello.
talk about. Wait, how does my intro go again? I legitimately forgot.
This is like movies of today,
Talk about the movies of
yesterday,
today,
the
future,
past.
and in yesteryear. But today, because we're not doing a modern classic today, that's why I'm thrown off. I think today we are doing a bonus episode. And a bonus episode is where we talk about new movies that are coming out. We're not doing modern classics. We're not doing clearing out our watch list. We're just talking about a new movie that we both are really excited to talk about. And we're really excited to see because we're talking about The Killer.
I find music a useful distraction, a focus tool. Keeps the inner voice from wandering.
By one of our favorite directors, David Fincher. Tyler, do you care to explain a little bit more about these special bonus episodes?
Yeah, so I mean, we've kind of like our unofficial mission of Film Frauds, at least this like season 2, this new generation, is to search out like modern movies, is to like you're basically like watching a live podcast, not live, but like a podcast in real time of our movie taste developing, and we watch more movies. That's what clearing out our watch list is not clearing our watch list. Search for modern classics. We're basically just trying to find like the best modern movies. We've grown up in this era, and we are trying to constantly like, seek out and see what is going to age the best, what will become a modern classic. And these bonus episodes are going to be centered around movies that are coming out either by movies that we're really interested in, not even to spoil some movies that we're going to talk about later, but like later this year, like Napoleon, Poor Things, like movies with like that we're inherently like think could be something special that we also just really want to talk about. I mean, when Aquaman 2 comes out, like you got to expect a fiesta from us. We're going to throw a whole shindig because Aquaman's a very near and dear movie to us. But this episode, the David Fincher's The Killer came out this weekend. It actually didn't even come out this weekend. It actually came out in theaters maybe a week and a half ago, in select theaters, like weirdly, kind of like across the country, sort of. I was very fortunate to see it in theaters, but I told you guys, I was like, I fucking got tickets to see The Killer, and both of you were like, don't say anything about the movie. And I don't know a single thing about what you think of this movie. I have seen it twice now. I I
You
don't
watch
want
on
to.
Netflix again?
Yeah, I
Like,
saw it.
okay.
So just to clarify, I saw it in theaters. I'm more evolved. I'm better than everybody. I went and saw it and paid money to go see it in theaters.
Since he's drinking his poop shake.
As I'm drinking
For our
my
audio
my poop shake,
listeners,
I'm drinking a clear. It literally looks like I pooped and then blended it. I I saw it in theaters with a almost like a really busy, like a pretty packed theater with people that seemed really into the movie. Uh, I don't want to say my thoughts on it yet, but I did see it again at home. I must say, seeing in theaters was really enjoyable, but being able to see it at home was also very interesting. I want to talk about that kind of like dichotomy of those two experiences. But Matt, you, I don't know anything about it. I have ideas of what I think you're gonna say, and I'm really curious. Matt, you
okay.
saw The
I'm
Killer.
gonna ask you questions about how you think I feel about the movie.
Okay.
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 Was I riveted by David Fincher's directing and visual style?
Yes.
Was I captivated by the performances, mainly Michael
Partially.
Fassbender's leading performance?
Partially.
Was I at all emotionally invested in anything that was going on by the end of
Not
the
in the
movie?
slightest.
Ding ding ding. Those are my general thoughts on The Killer. Um, I admire it. I think I need to see it again as well. I watched it Friday night, and this is on a Sunday, so it has had more than a day to stew with me. I was really looking forward to this movie. And just so everyone knows, like David Fincher is one of my favorite filmmakers. He was my first ever favorite filmmaker, like when I
Yep.
first started getting into movies. And like my hottest take with Fincher is that The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is my favorite Fincher movie. And I think people who've seen the movie recognize it for it being really good. Just that not a lot of people have seen it, especially compared to Seven,
Yep.
Fight Club, Social Network. Not to say that those movies are bad because they're also amazing, but I think for me, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is like, I think it's the best thing he's ever done.
No, I was gonna say, I think the thing with The Girl with the Dread Tattoo is that like it's like it's one of my favorite too. I think we both agree like that movie fucking kicks ass. But
Yeah.
it's like it's just like a really great adaptation of a book. It doesn't elevate, I think, is why people don't think it's the best. Where like
Okay.
Seven or Zodiac or even like the Social Network take these like ideas and then push them a little bit further. I just had to get that point out. I was like, I'm already buzzing just thinking about talking about this movie with you. I'm super excited. So sorry to
Mm.
keep going. You monologue.
And so this movie, interestingly, like has a team up with David Fincher and Andrew Kevin Walker again, who wrote Seven. He also wrote Sleepy Hollow, which you watched recently and I watched a couple weeks ago.
Oh shit.
So he is a very great writer, and it's based off of a graphic novel also called The Killer. And so I like Fincher. Like, I mean, I love Fincher, and he kind of has two different types of movies where he has like the more complex, like long plots, such as like Seven, The Girl Showing a Tattoo, The Social Network, and then he has his more like contained stuff, which would be like Panic Room, and I would also put The Killer in this list as well. It's like a more contained, straightforward movie, and it started off really great. Again, like I was hearing kind of mixed things about the movie, but that kind of excited me because again, like I love The Girl in China Tattoo. So like I was kind of like optimistic that maybe I'd be like on the camp of people who like loved this movie. And I really enjoyed it for a while. It was giving me American Psycho vibes. But by the movie's end, like the worst thing I could say about it is that I watched it 2 days ago and like I had to keep reminding myself that I had seen a David Fincher movie, a new David Fincher movie. And I think that's probably my biggest problem with the movie.
This is ultimately what I kind of want to ask because I saw it in theaters and I really wonder, like, did you check? Is it in any theaters anywhere near you at all?
It's like an hour and a half away, like in Cambridge, I think.
Okay, yeah, because to me, like, it was very like I think I talked about this in our Gone Girl episode, but the only reason I knew this was out in theaters is because I had a meeting with someone or at my job, and they're like, I'm seeing The Killer this weekend. I was like, The Killer's out in theaters? And I checked, and because I live in a very like populated place in Los Angeles, there's like 8 to 10 theaters within like a 4 or 5 mile radius of me, and there's a couple that were playing The Killer, so I went and immediately got tickets. And I really wonder if seeing this movie first, like, did you see any trailers for it? Did you know anything
Yes,
about
I
this
saw
movie?
the teaser for it. I saw the teaser and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna see it. Like it's kind of one of those things.
Yeah, the same for me. I watched the trailer and I don't remember the trailer, if I'm being completely honest. But like I'm super curious to see if you would have seen this in theaters, if it would have gotten a different experience at it, seeing it again, because I'm in a different boat. I kind of like really like this movie. It's not perfect. There are definitely elements where you're like, I kind of get what they're going for, and it's not as effective as it kind of wants. But rewatching it, I appreciated it even more, and kind of starting to borderline kind of like love the movie. And I think in the next few weeks, I'll probably rewatch it again. It's really fucking interesting, and I was watching it because I mean, we went into it probably as blind as humanly possible. What was your experience like, not knowing what the plot really was, the events of the movie? Like, how was your viewing experience? Because it's an interesting one when you don't really know what's about to happen and it kind of just ends. Like, what did you think? Oh, this is spoilers, by the way. We're spoiling.
Yeah, we're gonna go full spoilers.
Full spoiler.
So I'm gonna start off by saying that I would recommend the movie. I think it is a good movie. It's just like when I watch Fincher, like I want like this more, like I like those, like the Zodiac. I love like the longer plots, like and things like that, like more complex characters all interweaving and stuff. That's kind of what I like about Fincher a lot as a filmmaker. And I was really digging the movie for what it was, I think, around for like the first half of it. And I think the biggest flaw with the movie is like that, because it's all from the killer's perspective, Michael Fassbender's perspective. And so like it has that sort of, you're watching the movie and you're knowing that what he's saying is not necessarily what's actually going on in the movie.
Subjective.
Like he says, like, yeah, it's very subjective and manipulated. So when he's saying like I'm the best killer, like nothing better happens when I'm on the job, and like every single job he goes on, something wrong happens.
He's really bad at his job in this movie. He's like really bad.
Well, that's the thing. He's not as good as he says he is, but I still think he's like pretty good.
Yeah,
at his job.
Yeah, he even says though at the end, he's like, I'm not the best at my job, and then he's constantly fucking it up.
Yeah,
constantly messing up.
I think the issue I have though is like with American Psycho, like things get really surreal by the end. Like he murders people, but then but then by the end of the movie, like they're talking as if that person's still alive, and you can't really understand why.
Mm-hmm.
I like my biggest struggle with the movie is that his reality versus actual reality like aren't really that different. He's only slightly less competent than he says that he is. You know, like something like that. Like it's not, I don't think it really took advantage of like the whole like subjective narrative experience for me that much. It kind of, like, as I just said, like it's, even though he says he's the best and sometimes he messes up, he still does get the job done, and he's still way more capable than any normal man is. Yeah. So I feel like there's an issue between like what the movie's trying to sell you versus like what you're actually seeing.
I think it's interesting because for me, I can understand like because I definitely, when the movie ended for the first time, I was kind of just more like, I don't know what I just watched. Like, it was weird because even in the spoiling, just like the end of the movie, you're very right. You're like, I don't know if I fully got this on a first watch. You're like, it kind of just ends, and you're like, I don't really know what the point of that was. And then seeing it again and kind of being able to sit with that lens of like, I know what happens. I can kind of like breathe a little bit. It's like wildly kind of funny and like wildly kind of
It is very
entertaining.
funny movie.
Yeah, it's like it's shockingly funny movie. So like
when he kills the lawyer and
yeah,
he's got 6 minutes left to live, and then he
immediately
dies 6
dies.
seconds later.
He's like, oh fuck. I loved that. I mean, this is like for me, the more I watch movies, the more I think I become like enamored with like procedural movies of characters just like doing tasks and doing their jobs and getting them done and doing them well. I recently watched Tony Scott's Spy Game last night, and that movie is 60% a espionage procedural where the espionage is not the flash of the, and it's kind of actually honestly kind of shockingly similar to The Killer here, but the espionage and spy and like operatives is not all like guns and James Bond style and big explosions, big conspiracies, but it's like the slow movement of like work and orders and like slight manipulation. And
Have you seen 3 Days of the Condor?
no, but I've heard about it. Yeah.
That movie I watched that earlier this year. It also has Robert Redford in it as
Really?
the
Oh,
spy.
yeah.
And it's like that's like the perfect spy movie for me, where it's all like bureaucratic stuff,
Yeah.
but it's filmed in a really amazing way.
Oh, see, that seems awesome. And like even thinking about, you mentioned that, I think of the Shin Godzilla movie that came out, where it's basically like, what happens if Godzilla came into the real world and like how like bureaucrats are trying to solve the problems, and it's one person has to talk to another person. It's like a chain of things, and I find myself like really enamored by those types of movies. And this is essentially what that
Gotta
is.
watch Andor.
I gotta watch that. Yeah, I know. I gotta watch a bunch of stuff.
Andor's all bureaucracy, and it's amazing.
See, that's sick to me. And I think this is one of those movies that it's just like, what happens if an assassin is like in the real world and he like orders stuff on Amazon and he like is like an ascetic lifestyle of like eating a McMuffin at McDonald's and using like a WeWork, but it's actually kind of funny because the thing went bankrupt recently, WeWork.
Yeah.
And like using that and like how would he operate in the real world? And you do see this like very subjective. He's like nothing, like forbid empathy, like no emotions. And the entire movie is him being emotional and trying to like suppress it and hide it. Like this entire movie is a revenge movie masked in like a character study assassin procedural. And it's as you watch him as he tries to adhere to his own rules, but like consistently breaks them. I mean, the reason, like, I didn't catch this until a rewatch, but the reason he misses his shot at the beginning is because his heart rate was above 60. It was a 65, and then he took the shot and he missed. Or like the fact that on that chase scene away from the shot,
because like the dominatrix steps into.
Yeah,
sight.
but the guy was also but the whole thing is like he took the shot above what his own rules were, and it messed up. And yeah, the dominatrix got in the way. But he was also, the guy was also sitting on the
as women often do.
God. Dominatrixes, man, they're just in the way of.
Yes.
That's
always
how
in the way.
If you're an important person, hire a dominatrix, because Michael Fassbender will shoot her instead of you.
Yes.
But it's an entire movie of a guy like just like contradicting his own ideologies. I mean, he's forbid empathy, but like he has a loved one. Like he's like,
yeah, he has
like
a girlfriend or wife or something.
But that does not seem like who he is. And it's just like that reveal of like he flies back to, I think it's like the Dominican Republic. And he's in the hospital and he's clearly like trying not to break down and like be sad. And you're like, why the fuck is this like forbid empathy, like assassin man, like having like a life and like a loved one? It makes no sense. And that's kind of the point. I've read a lot of this kind of recently after watching it again, because I also did watch on Friday night, of like this being like a lot of this is like subtle, like subtext of like who David Fincher is, like a perfectionist, kind of stuff like that. And I figured if we know more about David Fincher, I imagine it's probably, there's a lot of like meta commentary about who he is and type of movies he makes. I'm not super well versed. I kind of just looked at the movie in front of me. Yeah. What did you think? What did you?
I know I listened to the Big Picture Show's podcast, and they were like, "Oh, this
yet.
is just an analogy for David Fincher's process," and I'm like, you do realize this was based off of a comic book and then also written by a screenplay writer who is not David Fincher. Like, David Fincher didn't write any of this movie. So yeah. I do see, like, that's not to say that like there are Easter egg stuff like related to David Fincher, but I struggle to see this as like David Fincher inserting himself into the movie, because there's just no evidence of it. Again, it's based off of other source material. It's written by a different screenplay writer, and he's said to be perfectionist, like the killer is, but I don't think there's any evidence to really suggest like this is like a self-insert by any means. The way I interpreted it more was it's like an analogy for like the corporate world.
There is a lot of like Starbucks and like McDonald's and
yeah, but
like
I'm just
that,
saying like climbing the corporate ladder to a certain extent.
Interesting.
So like him messing up the hit could be an analogy for like somewhat like an exec messing up on a job or like making an error, and then in order to maintain his position he has to start taking out everyone else around him. Sort of like American Psycho, sort of like Mr. Robot kind of like corporate social commentary. And then when you get to the end of the movie, he's taking out everyone except for like the top guy, the CEO, and he doesn't take out the CEO because he knows that with someone who's so far on the top of the food chain, you're better off just being a sycophant than being brutal to that guy at the very top, because that's how you're going to maintain your position. That's how you're going to be raised in your position. So that's how I saw it. It's like him taking out people like around him or of a similar or like maybe like a rank ahead of him. Like Tilda Swinton's character would be like a character who might have like a better job than the killer has, and so he's taking her out as a way to move up on the food chain, and then kissing up to the boss at the end as like the way of like maintaining that newer higher status. That's kind of like how I saw it. I don't know if you thought similar.
I didn't know if I necessarily thought it was like I can understand where you're coming from. Like it is basically like a work movie where the guy is bad at his job and he fails his job and he basically gets fired. And he gets mad and he kind of like just kills his coworkers. Like that's kind of what the movie, and I can understand where you're coming from. I just like,
I'd say like the killing the coworker is like an analogy for like getting them fired or like throwing them under the bus for things like that.
I definitely think there is probably like some kind of read of that. I'm more fascinated by the constant, like, because this movie is like, to use like kind of like a banal like modern film critic term, like if you look at a lot of reviews for this movie, a lot of the reviews contain the phrase character study, but it kind of is you like spend the entire movie from the perspective of this one person, except for one moment. There's one moment in the movie where he's not on the screen, and that's when Dolores is tied up in the car, and she has this like very like real human breakdown where she tries to get away and can't, and like screams and kind of like cries, and it's kind of like a little, you're like, like I forgot, like it's kind of like that, like immediately a break back to reality, which I can understand what you're talking about, where you're like the subjective view of himself is not different from the reality too much, which I think is really interesting. But I mean, this movie is essentially just like a collection of vignettes of him like encountering a problem, getting ready and prepping for the problem, solving the problem, and then cleaning up the problem is basically the movie like 5 times. And it's depending, like, I think your mileage on this movie will vary on your inherent love of these type of movies and your kind of like love of the character in Michael Fassbender. Because
and I do love the character Michael Fassbender. I think like the whole first hit, like when it's building up to him missing the shot, like I'm so like I was glad that was so drawn out and so like self-indulgent with the monologues and everything, because the punchline of him missing the shot and being like fuck,
or he goes, I don't give a fuck, shoot, fuck.
Yeah, literally, like that's hilarious. That was brilliant. And it seemed like they toned down the monologues as the movie went along too. Like I thought the monologues were like the best part of the early sections of the movie. Then by the end, he's like he's not speaking, and also there's no monologue. So it kind of they take that part out as well as the movie goes along. I felt, which I mean, like the punchline, like for that opening, like you can't really do that. You can't repeat that again. But I did like his little observances on living. He's like, even though I've killed so many people, like my death toll is not going to be a statistic at all on like the daily deaths around the world and stuff like that. Like all that was so good. It just, I feel like it just becomes more bland as the movie goes along. Like everything post him getting into the fist fight with the brute character. Like again, like Tilda Swinton is a great actress, and I think she does good in the role. There's no reason to care about anything that's going on in that scene, but like I think she does a good job, and like she does a good job of getting like progressively drunk as she's drinking the whiskey, and then like when she wants to order ice cream, you feel like that sadness of like that realization, like she'll never have ice cream again because she's about to get killed. Like the way she said it was great. Like I felt that emotion there. But again, as I was saying before, it's like with Patrick Bateman in American Psycho, the contrasts are like get more severe as the movie goes on between his reality and actual reality. And here, as I said, the only difference is that he's just slightly less competent than he claims to be. Like again, he Tilda Swinton's like this high profile assassin executive, whatever, and
Yeah.
he's so skilled that he managed to walk up and no one knows that he's there.
But
And
he
like,
does
oh,
he
he's showing
does
some
make a
emotion
mistake.
here, like he's showing some emotion,
Yeah.
I guess, like, but it's like whatever, really. It doesn't really matter. He's still emotionless enough to do the job and not get killed by this lady. Like it's just little things that don't really matter
See,
to
this
me.
is where I think it's like interesting, and I think because that whole like he goes from the brute to Tilda Swinton. I mean, that the Tilda Swinton thing is to me like very fascinating. I can understand where you're coming from on this, but I think for me, my like watching it, I'm just like my entire thing. I'm like, why? If he's this great, like because he talks about like distance, or he has this really funny line. He's like, "When was my last good quiet drowning?" And
Oh yeah.
you're like, "Yeah, this is really interesting." But
Yeah.
the fact that he's so focused a lot. I mean, the fact that his outfit for a lot of the movie and is like a German tourist. He mentioned he's like, no one
Mm.
wants to talk to a German tourist. And he has this outfit and he's so focused on like blending into the background and anonymity and just being, but the fact that he walks into a restaurant with unmasked with other witnesses and people who, when they find her body, they will go like, the last person we saw was at dinner with this guy. He kind of outs himself a little bit, which I find to be so fascinating because even Tilda Swinton's like, why are you here? Like, this makes no sense. You could have just killed me. And he doesn't really ever like reveal why, but like Michael Fassbender, like, I don't want to like jump around on points, but like this might be one of my favorite Michael Fassbender performances in a while.
He's great. It's probably his best
He's
performance since David and Prometheus.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
he's so fucking good in this movie. But like the way in which like he looks, where he feels like kind of like disgusted almost, you see, like with how she like indulges herself in public with like she knows like people kind of like she's like, oh, Carl. And you're like,
Yeah.
you have friends, and he's even like, why does she live in like a residential neighborhood? This makes no sense. It's like that examination of like, who is this person? Who is this killer? Because we never get a real name. He's constantly changing names. He's just the killer. And this person, like this, the contrast in like dichotomy between him and the people around him, or like the actress who plays the lawyer, I think his name is Chris Parnell.
Yes.
And like Dolores, like the contrast between the two, and the fact that he's like forbid empathy, but he gives Dolores like a good ending kind of thing. This is like, it's that through line of like examining this character and who he is to me the most interesting part, and how it falls apart or how it doesn't, or the rules he breaks or doesn't. Like, I think that's where the mileage may vary. Is
Yeah.
if it works for you, this movie's going to be great. If you're kind of like, this seems like banal a little bit, then it's probably going to falter after the brute sequence, I imagine, like you said.
It just doesn't, yeah, I just say it doesn't break down enough for me. I feel like it
Mm.
had so much potential with its premise. And like again, like I was listening to the real picture show podcast.
I
And
haven't
they're
even
like,
listened to that one yet.
they're like,
I
what was
haven't
your favorite? They're like, what was your favorite kill in the movie? And I'm like, I want to talk about what my favorite kill is, and like, and we like Freaky, which I watched earlier. And
Oh, how was that
at
movie,
the
by
end
the
of
way?
October. It's delightful. It is a
Yeah.
delightful movie. I highly recommend it. Fitz Vaughn literally gives an Oscar-worthy performance as a teenage girl. It is like I threw that on just on a whim, and I was delighted throughout the whole movie. Like
Okay.
that's a movie where I want to talk about like, oh, like what's my favorite, like what was your favorite kill, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Like with a Fincher movie, like I don't want to talk about like it's not like Friday the 13th. Like I don't want to talk about that kind of stuff. I want to talk about like character depth and like insane plot twists and things like that, because he's the best director at like taking like, other than Park Chan-wook, he's the best director at taking like raunchy material and like making it classy.
Yeah. Park
and, like,
Chan-wook is sex. David Fincher is like perversion and violence. It's
Yeah,
kind of the
yeah.
two. Yeah.
I mean they both kind of combine the two like
Yeah.
as well. So it's like it's like that's not what I want to talk about. Like again, I like more stripped down Fincher. Like I really love Panic Room. I watched that for the first time this week,
Same
and
here.
I really enjoyed it.
Same here.
And I'm open to having my mind changed on this movie when I watch it, because I probably will watch it again before the end of the year, because it's only 2 hours, and I did enjoy my time with it, and I really appreciated the acting and like also the directing. But it just feels like it has this really interesting premise, and it never really goes to like any interesting places besides a few very subtle things like, oh, he's showing some emotion here when he says he doesn't show any emotion. But guess what? He still gets the job done. He still puts his emotions on the side and shoots the lady in the head when he's supposed to because he's not gonna risk it. I want to talk about like the last hit, i.e., the hit that does not actually come to fruition.
The CEO, yeah, that
Yes.
the client or whatever.
Yes. Do you see what I'm saying there, or did you interpret that another way, like on your rewatch? Because
So-
probably maybe I just missed something with that.
So admittedly, on the first watch, when I was in the theater, because this is probably one of the most blind movies I've gone into. I see a lot of movies in theaters, and at a certain point, it's almost impossible to avoid trailers. It just really is. Like you watch a football game, like you watch Monday Night Football, and there's trailers for this stuff, or you watch like a Celtics game, and there's trailers. There's a lot of different. It's really hard to be in to love movie culture and to avoid information about movies. It just is, and this is one of the movies that we're like, David Fincher's making a movie 2023. There's the poster, the trailer. I watched the trailer once. I was like, nice, I'm going to see it. And I went into it completely blind. I knew literally nothing about this movie. So the first time it ended, when he doesn't kill the client, and the movie just ends. He's just like, I'm one of the many.
And you see epilogue, you're like, oh, we're going to get some more juicy details. And epilogue's literally 45 seconds long.
45 seconds. He's like, I hope you guys know that I'm not one of the few, I'm one of the many. End. And you're like, okay. You're like, sure. On the first rewatch, it was jarring. It was a little because you are almost like, the movie's paced incredibly well. I want to give a lot of credit to that. It flies by, at least.
Yeah, the movie does fly by.
Flies by. It's crazy how well made and edited and but that's David Fincher hallmarks. If David Fincher movies are poorly edited, then that would be more shocking than whether or not you didn't like the movie, if it didn't work like that. But it was really jarring on the first watch because it just kind of ends and you're like, I don't really get it. And on the second watch, I kind of understood it a little bit more, I think. He doesn't kill him because there really just isn't a point. He talks about when I look into his eyes, I'll know. And the guy is he's just some tech nerd guy.
Yeah.
He's just he's not some giant James Bond supervillain. He's just some fucking dude who wants to kill another guy to make more money. He has no problem with Michael Fassbender. He has no experience in it. He didn't even know what that meant to
and he has so much on his plate that he doesn't even remember.
Yeah, he's
giving the hit to go attack the family, to attack his girlfriend or whatever. Yeah,
exactly. He's like, I walk in here with a gun, and I talk about this, and you have no idea what it's like. A very interesting complete takeaway because you expect the client. Who is it? This big he's just some kind of fucking dork. He's a dork billionaire, and what's it called? That it's antithetical to an actual climax of a movie, and I think it works, and I think it doesn't. What did you think?
I think having a big dumb action scene at the end would have been worse than the ending that we got, but I would still say that it was fairly I felt uninspired to me. I couldn't. I ended it that's probably why the movie has been so forgettable for me, is the ending, because again, it's you get the epilogue and you're like, okay, something is gonna finally make sense with this, and then it's a good line. I'm not one of the few, I'm one of the many. It's thought-provoking in that sense. But even the conversation between Fassbender and the CEO guy, it was fine. I don't remember what they talked about really.
Is that the most he talks to anybody in the movie at all?
Yeah.
Is at the end? Yeah.
In the movie, I would say yes. Or the brother of his girlfriend, he talks to a bit. Yeah, I don't know what to say because it just doesn't give you anything,
That's the I did find it interesting. Again, I'm starting to really like procedurals, and the fact that he's just security is really lax until everybody wants a fucking Postmates, and he just basically gets a key fob off Amazon or a key fob and gets into his place. So it's honestly a little intimidating or mildly scary if you kind of really think about it. If there are these type of assassins in the world, how easy it is for them to kind of get information and kind of get into places. And I think that's kind of fascinating that how that manipulation of like you said, the kind of corporate America, where you can just kind of use major corporations for your advantage and kind of just do whatever you want is fascinating. Or the anonymity of how you can have these just kind of glide around the country and nobody really knows or cares. It's fascinating. And I definitely think the thing that holds me back from really loving this movie is that like that lack of like final punch. Like I do agree. Like I really can't argue against it that much. Like I think I've probably been doing a lot. I do agree that it like he kind of leaves and it doesn't leave with the final push that I think I wanted, considering how invested and how much I kind of loved everything else. It's like that it finishes like a 95% really great, and that 5% I'm still kind of racking my brain around, and it kind of does limit it, admittedly.
What did you think of because I kind of jumping all over, like what did you think of the fight with the brute? Because that to me,
It's
first of
cool.
all, credit to Michael Fassbender for just taking, like, he takes the shots in the scene, and you know it's him too. And normally, like, filming it in like a dark setting is like kind of like will take points off for me because it's like an excuse to hide things. But I mean, Fincher's the best nighttime director probably ever that there ever will be, and it looks beautiful, but it's also so incredibly brutal. And like every time there's like little bits of light, like when they occasionally fight in the bathroom and there's light, and it was so well done. And like even like dumb things like him searching for a weapon in the cabinet and pulling out a cheese grater, like that was really funny. And he goes,
yeah, because you think you're like, he pulls that cheese grater and you're like, let's fucking go. Because you think of like, you've seen Tenet, right?
Yes.
Yeah, where he like he does it and then he just doesn't use it. I mean, that like, I don't know if it was in post production or not, but the fact that like the brute moves or punches and the camera shakes with like the weight of his impact, it's like one of the better like made fight scenes I think we've had in a hot minute, especially considering like this year's been a pretty solid year for action just with John Wick 4 alone, and it might be one of the better like non-John Wick associated like action scenes we've gotten a little bit of pure like, you're right, like
that Extraction too, like had that one long take and everything. But no, it was. But even like here, like the use of like blood, and like they're like actually like cutting each other and like and stuff. It was and like the guy, like the giant guy, like Fincher films in a way where like you feel like he's just so much more powerful than the killer is.
Yeah, I thought legitimately there was on a rewatch, I was like, is that Roman Reigns? I was like,
he has like the Samoan tribal tattoo thing.
That's what I thought.
I thought he was like one of the Usos for a second.
That's what I thought too. I was like, I was like, is that a WWE guy? I was like, that makes no sense. But no, you're right. Like, it's like, what did you think of it? Like, was that a highlight for you?
That was a huge highlight from me. Again, there's no like emotional stakes because it's like, do I want this one bad guy to win or want the other bad guy to win? And we don't, and it's like we don't really know what exactly the brute did or what, other than he's like an assassin and was like maybe he roughed up his girlfriend or something.
I
like,
know that's just what happened.
Like, there's no emotional stakes, but again, like there's good dry humor in it, like with the cheese grater, and like the action is very well filmed.
Yeah.
And like again, an interesting character moment for him is like how he refuses to kill the dog.
Yeah.
You know, like he won't kill a dog for some reason. It doesn't really matter, but
I don't know. I would have when that dog busts through the fucking glass door.
Yeah.
I would it's like that a dog is getting shot. I'm sorry. That's just no stopping it. Like I do not trust a dog not to jump over that fence at that point. That thing is getting shot.
He almost did jump over the fence too. That dog had hops.
I gotta be on a real. So I don't. This is what I think is really interesting because I wonder what your reaction would have been to a busy theater. Because for me, my theater, a lot of these moments were elevated because they were like really into it, like laughing at moments, like when the dog like busts through the glass door, like people were like laughing. Like it was like it's a really fun theater experience with people who are like actively like really looking forward to this type of movie. It was crazy. There was like also like an 8-year-old kid sitting next to me, which I thought was kind of interesting, or sitting next to Olive, who I thought was really interesting. That I was like, I don't know if I'd bring like a young person to this movie. It seems kind of boring to them.
All of the David Fincher movies, this would probably be actually one of the higher ones to bring a kid to.
Yeah, you're like fine. I mean, not really like. What's the worst piece of violence? The guy gets shot in the car? Like,
yeah, I mean, compare like the Direct Girl drawing a tattoo or Gone Girl or something. Like, this movie's definitely better. I still wouldn't bring a kid to this movie, but compared to his other stuff, I mean, it's not the worst you can go.
What's the David Fincher rankings for I wouldn't bring my kid to this movie? Is it Social Network probably number one, where you're like, there's nothing wrong in?
No, Panic Room's pretty good.
But Panic Room's fine. But no, Panic Room has like Jared Leto gets shot. Like Social Network, nobody gets shot in Social Network.
I'm just saying like number 2, like Panic Room or something. The Social Network or Benjamin Button. I don't know what happens with Benjamin Button, but I'm assuming nothing bad happens. It's PG-13, I think.
I think so. Oh no, I think it's R. I think because I think there's nudity in it.
Okay.
I had to give it
so probably like Social Network number 1, Panic Room, Benjamin Button probably like number 2, 3.
Yeah.
Fight Club. probably
Club-
has jokes that kids won't understand. So I don't think it's that.
There's sex. There's a lot of sex in Fight Club though.
I haven't seen Fight Club in a long time. I don't remember.
The Brad Pitt and Helen Bonham Carter or whatever.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a lot
Helen
of there's
boned.
the dominatrix and Helen Bonham Carter. Yeah.
Yes. So I mean, is there any nudity in that?
No, but there's a lot
have
of
no
like
recollection.
I don't know if there's nudity, but there's a lot of like implied like sexual
Yeah.
content. I mean, there's also like the big boobed Bob like character.
Yeah, but that's like a joke. No one's like kids aren't gonna get that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. Like this one's
I
definitely
mean, like
up
all
there.
I know is like Gone Girl, Girl in China 2, 7 are like absolute no's.
Yeah, all I know all I know is if I would have seen this when I was like anywhere from like 8 to 12, I would have been like, this is the most boring fucking movie. All they do is talk. I'm like, all they do is it's just monologue after monologue.
Where's Man of Steel?
Actually, he's just not getting punched through a building as I just vibrate on a seat full of popcorn and fucking and icy. Just he's not punched through a wall every 8
You
seconds.
start watching KYR Speedy on your iPod Nano in the middle of the movie. You turn it up all the way.
I have to you have to hey guys, another Call of Duty Black Ops trick shot, and you're like, yeah. Oh, if they're Tilda Swinton's talking about Hunter being having sex with a bear, it's like you're not really here for the hunt, are you? Matt, do you have any favorite scenes like really that stood out outside the brute? Because that's like an action visceral. Is there any, like,
I would
interactions?
say the whole lead up to the first hit was all really great. Also, whoever wrote the script has never been to Paris or Berlin because Berlin is a million times more cleaner than Paris.
Really?
Yes, not even close. So
Paris is dirty. Yeah,
that's a cinema sin, and I'm not okay with that.
Oh my god, film frauds, film sins.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yes,
Holy
film
crap.
fails.
Fails. Michael Fassbender, you fail. No, he's really like I was one thing I wrote down in this movie when Tilda Swinton's like talking about the like the bear scene, and he kind of looks at her and he's like, what the fuck? He's like, shut up. Like he doesn't care. Or I like the fact that when he does the hit, he's talking about he's like, you know, it all matters, like everything, like being on top, and then he almost oversleeps. Like I like that. Like he wakes up and he looks down, he's like that, and it's just like all these little moments I think is just awesome. Like he drugs the dog wrong, and like it's great. He doesn't read where the the brute is, and I don't know. I really liked it. I'm gonna be honest. Like we talk about these type of movies, and when we talk about them, I'm like thinking about how I feel about them. And I want to rewatch this again. Like I'm super into this. Like I'm gonna
I still liked it. I would still say it's like way better than Mank, but again, it's like I just hold the best Fincher in such high regard that I just came off as very negative because I feel like the movie had so much potential that I don't think it really lived up to.
Yeah,
unlike Freaky, which had a great premise and lived up to all of its potential. It was amazing.
Or fucking Sleepy Hollow, where I saw your Letterboxd review of Sleepy Hollow, and I'm like, I'll give this a shot. And
it's amazing.
It's amazing. It's like okay. So real quick, because I texted you before. I'm like, get your top 5 of David Fincher ready. I was like, we gotta, because we mentioned it during our Gone Girl episode. I was, I was having fun. I smoked a little bit of the good old devil lettuce, the herb. And I was like, I'm going to watch Sleepy Hollow. I was like, let's do it. And I was sitting there and I was like, this is a kid's movie. I was like, this is going to be a kid's movie. I'm really interested. It's Tim Burton. And then the heads kept cutting off. And I was like, this is the most violent kids movie I've ever seen in my entire life. I was like, what the fuck? And there's a lot of like really
Christopher Walken is massacring people left and right.
Murder. The scene where the Headless Horseman takes the 2 axes and cuts the guys in half, or where Johnny Depp, like bathed in like white, is chopping the tree and the heads fall off. I was like, this is an insane kids movie. I was like, this is crazy. That movie's legitimately really great. I cannot believe I waited that long to watch it.
I know. I threw it out on a whim because it was Halloween season. I wanted to watch a Halloween movie.
Yeah.
And like even like all the flashbacks are shot like those old German like 1930s movies and stuff because he's like a Hessian soldier, and like all those bodies in the underneath the tree, all there. Like there's, and then like, also like Johnny Depp is really good in it too.
He's
like
really good.
He's very quirky. Like when he has his little like suitcase with all this stuff in it when he's investigating the body.
Yeah.
Just I don't even really like the filmmaker that much.
Yeah, his movies are hit or miss, kind of.
Yeah, but like I was really engaged into Sleepy Hollow. So yeah, watch Sleepy Hollow on HBO Max.
That's our recommendation. Fuck the killer. No, so Matt, what movies? So we watched Gone Girl on our last episode. In the prep for
Yes.
Gone Girl, I rewatched Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and stuff like that. I mean, a lot of his movies like Seven, Fight Club, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Like I've seen these movies a lot. Social Network. But this one, I think we both kind of went out of our way to watch a couple of them.
Yeah.
Over the course of the week. Matt, what did you rewatch and prep for this one?
I watched Panic Room for the first time.
Same here.
Finally wanted to get it done. I watched Seven. And I watched The Social Network as well, in addition to Gone Girl.
Do you have like quick little thoughts? Like, what did you think about?
First of all, like, I couldn't believe, because I watched Seven and Social Network like within a day of each other, and the way Seven looks like a horror nightmare of New York, and then like Social Network is like pleasant Cambridge.
Yeah.
Like the way he like, it both feel like David Fincher movies, but like he's so good at setting. Like the settings are like almost complete contrast, where one is literally an inferno and the other is like a nice preppy college town, you know? Like things like that I really appreciated on this, like especially watching them so close to each other. It's like, wow, this guy just understands how to, you know, make a setting as however he wants to do it. He's just, him more than any other filmmaker, especially like watching movies at home, like even like movies that I love, like I'll occasionally check my phone during, like just like for like a second.
Yeah,
like with
because
Fincher, with Fincher, the way he directs a movie, it's like it's impossible to look everything's so beautiful and everything's so precise that like him more than any other director, it's like when a movie's on, like I'm just locked in. Like there's no urge to do anything else besides watch the movie.
Yeah.
And that's what I noticed, especially watching so many of his movies in order like that. Social Network I gave it 4.5 stars last time I saw it in 2020. It's a 5-star movie. I don't know why I gave it 4.5. It's Jesse Eisenberg. It's so funny. Like, so what was that? 2010 was Social Network, and then Girl in Shanghai Tattoo was 2011.
Yeah, then Gone Girl was 2014. Yeah.
Yeah, but like I'm just saying, like Jesse Eisenberg and Rooney Mara give like two of the most iconic performances of the 2010s, and they're two Fincher movies back to back, like within a year of each other. It's kind of crazy to think that like they both give two of the most iconic performances of the 2010s, and
like literally career defining. Like we look back and like, what's Jesse Eisenberg's performance? It's like Social Network, obviously.
Yeah, what's Rooney Mara's performance? Girl Like Shanghai Tattoo. Like, they did those back to back. It's so commendable. He's just a great filmmaker.
Yeah, that was how I felt that way with like Panic Room. Like I saw your Letterboxd review, but like Panic Room, I'm watching it, I'm like, this is like one of the better directed movies I've seen. Like how he moves the camera, like he was like moving it through banisters and over like countertops, and you're like, I don't know how the fuck he does this, but how his even like non-suspenseful movies, like Social Network is a drama. It's a drama, but it's like suspenseful. It's like builds that tension, and Panic Room builds that tension, and that my favorite thing of oh my god, Raul being like a fucking like insane person.
I'm Raul.
Yeah, I'm Raul. And he's like, who the fuck are you? And the Raul shoots him, and you're just like, who the fuck is Raul? Like that slow.
Jared Leto's good in a movie. Like he's really good in Panic Room.
There's a part in Panic Room that I wish that like I didn't see any, like things go wrong and he immediately starts smoking a crack pipe.
Yeah.
He's like, oh man. You're like, what the fuck? You're like, this is great. I think he gets brutally murdered with cornrows, and you're like, this is great. Panic Room's like legitimately really good. I liked it like a lot. Like I thought it was really fun.
It's like a solid thriller.
Yeah. And I rewatched Zodiac, and Zodiac is maybe one of the best movies like ever. I literally was like, Olive was not as entertained by it, but she could attest that like every like 15 minutes I was like, oh man. I was just like reacting to like something in it, or just being like,
I never got the scene where like they were Jake Gyllenhaal orders like the martini drink. Yeah. And then it cuts to like all the drinks all piled up. Like that's such he knows comedy well, like especially at Social Network, like when Eduardo gets outed for animal cruelty when he's feeding the chicken, and like they do like the comedy close up of the chicken going wah, 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 but it's so funny because Dave Fincher's like is like a classy filmmaker. It's like something like some hack who did an Adam Sandler movie would do, but like he does it so masterfully as well.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's still funny.
Yeah, his movies are funny. I don't think Seven is that funny. But
no, Seven is not that funny.
Seven's not a fun time. But I asked you, Matt. I was like, give me your top 5. Like, can you develop a top 5? And I don't know if you want to, because I have a couple honorable mentions and I have my top 5.
Okay, I'm just gonna do my top 5.
Okay.
So this is tentative because I didn't get to rewatch Zodiac.
Yep.
I wanted to, but this is too long.
It's long.
So number 1 is Girl in the Shanghai Tattoo.
Okay.
Number 2 is The Social Network. Social Network is brilliant. Especially because now I realize that like the whole point of the movie is that like this guy made his empire off the backs of ruining women's reputations.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
college girls' reputations. Like that's basically how a lot of people made money. It's brilliant. 7, 3, Zodiac 4, and then Panic Room 5.
Panic Room over Gone Girl?
Yes,
Wow.
tentatively.
And Fight Club.
I haven't seen Fight Club in a long time, and
Okay.
even when I watched it, I don't remember being particularly amazed by it.
Okay.
Like I think I got to rewatch it. Like it's like again, I made this list literally like 30 minutes ago,
Yeah,
or like an hour ago.
I was like, figure out a list. Goodbye.
Yeah, so
We'll see you
it's
in
a
30
tentative
minutes.
list.
Okay.
I don't know, like because Gone Girl is really, really great as well. I just like I feel like Panic Room is just a little more like precise, I would say.
Interesting. I don't know if I'd give it that high, but I can't like disagree with it. It's a really good movie. I want to throw out there that for me, I have not seen Alien 3 and I have not seen Curious Case of Benjamin Button. I'm going to assume based on reaction.
I think Alien 3 was pretty close for me.
Yeah, it was just up there. Yeah, it's just hanging on number 6. I'm going to assume based on reception that those two probably would not be in it. I want to throw out there to anybody who supports the game. It's not up there. I'm sorry. I know
Game
that there are
sucks.
some of you. I think it's
some people with absolutely no taste at all think the game is good.
I think it is interesting. I just think it's.
There are people who think Mank is a good movie.
Yeah, I don't really.
Also,
know
I want to
that.
rescind the comment I made last episode.
Okay.
I said make more like dank. What I meant to say was make more like stank.
Stank, yeah, Mank fucking sucks. Mank is bad. I want to throw make more like dank. Make more like stank. Mank is no. Even like the thing is like my litmus test for Mank. So our other co-host who died, former co-host Mark, who we no longer affiliate with. Fuck him.
No,
Mark, if you listen to this, you're not.
He's not listening to this.
If there's a movie more tailor-made to a person, it's probably Mank to Mark because he likes like the foundations of like cinema and like learning about like loves Third Man, loves Citizen Kane.
He also has no taste in movies as well, so that's why he'd like
sucks.
Mank.
But he's like he watched Mank again. He's like, this movie's not good, and you're like, yeah, it makes sense. So if he doesn't like it, I'm usually like, I'm good. For me, my honorable mentions, if I'm going like descending order, it's Panic Room, Killer, Fight Club. If it's like 8, 7, 6, it's Panic Room, Killer, Fight Club at 6. 5 for me is Gone Girl. 4 is 7. 4 is 7. 4 is the movie 7. 3 is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. 2 is Zodiac, and 1 is The Social Network. Nothing beats The Social Network for me. I got to be honest. Like it's one of those movies that I could watch every day.
Yeah, Social Network is so brilliantly written as well.
It's so fucking.
It's such a good movie.
It's such a good.
I rewatched it on Friday, and I was like. It's just so well. Everyone's so witty, and again, the commentary of like how all these women are being ruined, and that this guy's making billions of dollars off of it. Yeah. So good. Jesse Eisenberg is great in it. He's
so good. Same as like Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield's great. Justin Timberlake is great.
Everybody's good in that movie. Rooney Mara for the 10 minutes she's in it. Yes. Yeah, no, it's hard. Like, I really love Gone Girl, but it's really hard to argue.
I want you to know they don't like you because you're a geek. Yeah. They don't like you because you're an asshole.
Because you're an asshole. Fuck you. No, 7, it's hard to like put 7 anywhere outside of like it has to be in the top 5. It's just like it's such a great movie. It's so good. Gone Girl I really love, but like this is the thing.
What's in the box?
But this is the thing is like like he has 6.
Did you know that Kevin Spacey didn't know he's being recorded during the entirety of 7?
Allegedly, he didn't know he was being recorded. Allegedly. No, he it's so hard. Like the top 5 of David Fincher are like 5 of the best movies made in the past like 30 years. Like it's just it's just like it's hard to beat a lot of his stuff. And I love him and every movie he makes.
Again, even though Gone Girl isn't like isn't in my top 5 right now, it's like and for like almost any other filmmaker, it would be in the top 5. It's just that Fincher has so many just monumental or severely underrated works.
The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is like the most interesting movie made. It's just like it's so good. We will die for that movie and love it forever. Matt, The Killer, that was fun.
Yes.
You have any final thoughts to our first ever bonus episode? What will be our next one? Is that Napoleon?
Napoleon's the next one. I'm gonna do. I have like a Ridley Scott ranked list going right now.
You do? Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So I've been watching. So it's a combination of movies that I've seen this year. Or movies I've just seen so many times, I know like where they're gonna be, like Alien. Yeah. Like I know where Alien's gonna be.
Yeah. Have you rewatched Body of Lies? Have you seen that one?
I've not seen Body of Lies. I need to watch that.
I don't think you'll like it.
Okay, the big ones I have are Body of Lies, The Duelist, which I'm gonna have to use your
Duelist?
Criterion account for.
Go
Yeah,
for it.
because you had The Last Duel.
Oh, I have not seen The Last Duel. That's one I gotta watch.
Yeah. And I have American Gangster. I've never seen, which I need
American
to
Gangster's
watch.
fine. It's fine.
Oh.
It's a good movie. It's like not great. I forgot he did Alien Covenant.
That's where that movie's got to be ranked on my list.
Oh, it's good. But just all the way at the bottom. Let's see. Oh my God, Sean Fantasy gave it 4 stars. I disagree.
What?
Alien Covenant. Yeah.
Yeah, in his reviews, like, oh, this slaps or something like that. It says nothing about why the movie's actually 4 stars. Coward.
God, 3 people.
Tell me why it's a
on
4-star movie, Sean Fantasy. Coward.
4 people. I literally look at my reviews for this. It's literally all 4 stars, and then you with half a star.
They don't know it like I know it.
And then yours is just
Yeah, that was the most savage I've ever had to be.
Yeah, that was
in my life.
Yeah, there's a lot of
I literally denied its existence in my review. I just said the movie doesn't exist. I refuse to acknowledge it.
This movie fucking blows. That was a fascinating thing. We'll have to talk about that when we do Napoleon, because I imagine Mark is gonna come back for Napoleon. If there is one, he's coming back.
Breath.
Yeah, if there's one, he's got to come back for. It's Napoleon. I mean,
yeah, but I got my rankings going, and then we'll be doing The Lobster, and then we'll be doing
Poor Things.
Poor Things.
Poor Things is coming. We're doing it. I'm so excited. All right, Matt. This was fun.
Poor Things already has a modern classic A+ for me.
Matt, you're just like you're already just it's already the best ever.
Yeah.
Matt, this was fun. The Killer. I will be rewatching it probably I imagine before Christmas I'll be watching it again. I kind of like really love it. It's like growing on me a lot. I heavily recommend it. I don't know how it's going to age, but probably not like we want other movies to. So
no,
who knows? All right, Matt, send it off.
If you like this video, leave a review. Thank you, Alex, for your great review. We read it before the podcast last weekend.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Let us know what you think of The Killer. And then tune in next time for whatever we do next.
Wherever we do next. Who knows? Ridley Scott directed fucking Black Hawk Down. Are you serious?
Yes.
That's a good movie.
And it's a really good movie.
That's a good movie.
I already watched that over the summer.
I did. I just looked at your review. Wow. Okay. He has a lot of movies.
Reviews. Have you heard of reviews before?
I put a review. Have you seen my review of Spy Game? Look at this.
Yeah.
thing.
Well, I didn't read it because I have other things to do, but I did see you leave a review.
I'll write a review of The Killer. I have stuff to say about it. Okay. Thank you guys for watching. This was fun, and we'll see you guys again soon. Peace.